Louisville was always a city in an agrarian state. The rest of Kentucky, through almost all of its history, has been rural. This was the urban area. And the tension that came with that, especially at the state level of politics, has been pretty substantial at various points. When you have a rural culture, an agrarian culture, everybody is sort of on their own. You know, good fences make good farmers. You don't need to find a way to collaborate. In a city, it's different. You try and support everyone because you understand that your values are about growing the enterprise. They have, generation to generation, looked at contemporary ideas in architecture. For the Humana building, for example, there was a competition with 5 of the best architects in the world submitting briefs and designs, and Michael Graves was chosen to do that. Now we have the Ali Center. We hope we'll have Museum Plaza as sort of the next generation to do that. What I think is unique about these 2 buildings, though, is Louisville's awakening to the opportunity that the river offers. Louisville was settled because of the river, and because of the falls in the river, and the fact boats could not go down the falls, so they would have to put in, take the goods off, take them through town, put them back on a boat, and go through. Well, the town grew up around that trade. And so the entire riverfront has been, for almost all of Louisville's history, an industrial riverfront. Only in the last generation have they said, let's try and make something more public out of that. We can hear in the background the expressway that's running along the edge there, and it's a Chinese wall to the river. How do you begin to overcome that? Well, you do it, at least visually, with Muhammad Ali building and with the Museum Plaza. And the fact that the people driving along that highway will see these 2 remarkable works of new architecture. The best way to see the Ali building is from the interstate driving through the city. And Museum Plaza will be the same. The bigger issue, I think, is going to be how the city eventually either does away with the interstate, goes over the interstate, covers it up in some manner, so that this wonderful river, this extraordinary Ohio River with all of its history and its scenic quality, can be re-engaged as a public amenity, not just a kind of business premise of traveling goods, but a real public amenity for how people can live their lives here. Design has a role in dealing with the way society lives today, and that's what I believe. The designer needs to be at the table around all of these issues. Not that they have the answer to everything, but they're a part of any answer to any issue and how a city lives and how it grows. Design has that presence. You know, it's something people can engage in, they can feel part of, it becomes representative of their history, it becomes aspirational in terms of looking forward. That's what's wonderful about this. The world is changing, I think, in that we now see images instead of read words about ourselves. One thing about this new digital culture that's emerged is we get our information from screens, and for the most part those are images. Well, designers are all about images. The days of the lawyers and the legal documents that manifested in zoning codes and building codes what a city should be like are ending. We're now going to get a picture, a vision of what design can be, or what a city can be, and the designers are going to be a key part of making that real. A new design initiative that tries to recognize and award emerging issues and ideas that really work at a global scale to bring whole new populations to the table with the designer, so that the reach of the designer can expand to address some of these key issues the world has to face today. The former mayor of Medellin, Colombia, and his chief urban planner. And starting in 2003, they took a series of public projects and built them beautifully. First of all, wonderful works of architecture, but they did them in some of the worst neighborhoods in Medellin. As the mayor said, we need to put our most beautiful buildings in our poorest areas. And it has had a transformative effect on the city of Medellin in terms of its self-image, in terms of crime, in terms of tourism. It's made it much safer than it used to be because the drug cartels were essentially running the city. Many people now are coming as tourists to see these new works of architecture, the parks, the public spaces. Areas of the city that were not connected suddenly are connected, and it's been a wonderful story. Without question. I think it really, if you think about politics in America, For the most part, the federal government has given up on major public building projects. We used to build housing, for example. We don't do that anymore. We've outsourced that to the private sector. And it means, I think, if you really want to talk about changing the environment in which people live, you do it at a local level, and that's the mayor. It's interesting to see how many people have moved from pretty high, powerful corporate jobs or other places to a more local political position. Think about Mayor Bloomberg in New York or Mayor Daley in Chicago. They're really focusing on the built quality of those cities. You look at New York now and the transformations in terms of new public spaces, the bike paths that are running through, closing down half of Broadway. I mean, who would have thought you could have done that 10 years ago in New York? But he's done it, and he's made beautiful public places out of it. Mayor Daley in Chicago, a whole new series of new initiatives. We talked about the Aqua Tower, for example, in Millennium Park. It's all about improving the quality of space in which people live, and that needs to be done at a local level.